Right, we'll kick off because we've got quite a bit that Ollie's going to run through today. So don't want to steal any of his time, but we'll let people come in over the next couple of minutes. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining our March Higher Education Hub. So we've just fired up a QR code here. So before we kind of fully get into it, we'd be really keen to get a couple of questions answered by anyone that's happy to do it on the call today. It'll feed into some of the discussions that will come in later. So we've got a QR code up on the screen here. If you're happy, just scan it, put some responses in, and then we'll come back to it after I've just run through a couple of slides. But we'll also have the QR code on those slides, so anyone that joins in a bit can grab it on there as well. But today's session is all about bringing together IT and talent to help aid self-sufficiency. So we know that there's quite a big increase in low-code, no-code dev platforms, and that's really encouraged that digitization and the innovation. But the management of that and ongoing change around it and having the right skill sets in-house to attract and retain that talent always needs continued focus. So today we'll talk through a couple of the learnings that we've gained from our engagements and implementations with customers, with the goal that some of that will resonate with you guys on the call and help you on that journey and see where we can support on that as well. So while we kind of get those responses into any of on that QR code, just a bit of background really. So the Higher Education Hub is essentially back one slide, sorry, Ollie.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. So Higher Education Hub is essentially the online forum for us to bring together peers in the sector, where we hope to talk through anything that we're seeing in the market that might be of interest and bring together that technology and that business element together through demos or just general discussions, and hopefully build out that community together. Next slide. Thank you. So Crimson's goal and mission statement is to break down business challenges through opportunities and technology, bringing together people, processes and technology, and use iterative and agile techniques to deploy faster and see value quicker. We are a Microsoft Solutions partner. Next slide. Thank you, and work across several sectors. So we work across higher education, local government, housing and home builders, and have various practices across Azure, Dynamics 365, Modern Workplace, as well as data practice and Power BI consultancy. So lots across the whole Microsoft stack. We are also part of Nash Squared, so we have a recruitment arm at Crimson, which will feed into some of the discussions that we're having today around, talent, etc. And one of our colleagues, Lou, might be on the call. But if not, if there's anything around that, we can also do some introductions around that recruitment element and how we can help in that side of things in your organisations. Next slide. So we have partnered with some fantastic higher education customers, some of which are on the call with us today, and we've thrown a couple of them up on the screen here as well. What we really look to do is to leverage our solution accelerators and build on that Microsoft stack. So that helps us engage at pace with our customers so they can see that value quicker and improve that user adoption. And it's these kind of implementations that have helped scope what we're going to be talking through today a little bit further, along with some of those out of sector implementations in the home builders and housing associations areas. But before I hand over to Ollie, put that QR code. I don't know if anyone's been able to have a go at it yet. If there's any feedback on it. Sorry, I'll go into you, but
Yeah, no problem. So
is there anything in there?
I'll move this along. It probably flashes up on their phone now.
Perfect. Okay, great. Okay, it's a bit of a mix. And I don't think it's surprising that a lot of them are in that beginner stage of Power Platform. So I think it's also, and that's why it's great being on this call really. So that limited knowledge around Power Platform and what it means, I think is also a massive thing. So what can it help you drive? How can it be used in your organization? But also, what are the benefits that you get out of it. I think a lot of the time there's things around Power Platform that we can be using, but we don't know how to leverage it. And it's interesting that a lot of them, like, we haven't got any advanced. So we've got the right people on the call. So
it's funny. I always think about that, and I think, and I question whether I should put sort of advanced, because some people go, "Oh crikey, I'm not advanced," but in some perspectives they possibly are more advanced, than general. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I always see that the questions where I've got beginner, intermediate, advanced, but depending upon the subject, we rarely get people getting advanced. I don't know, maybe more different cultures have a different sort of ego, and maybe there's in the UK we're all like, no, we're not advanced, absolutely not. But that's really interesting. Yeah, so a good mix of beginners and intermediates, so some experience with Power Platform. That's really interesting.
The next one. So what best describes your organization's current adoption of digital technologies?
Oh, excellent.
Like that. Again, it's quite nice to see that there's a mix, but on that higher stage. So there's a lot of potential around digital that's kind of seen as an enabler, but it's how you then drive that continued.
It'd be interesting. Would have been interesting to see, maybe this question a couple of years pre-COVID, where we really did have to have a massive reliance on digital technology just to get us through that period. It'd be interesting how much that's influenced the question there.
I think as well, with higher education, I think traditionally it always was, come into the campus and be there quite a lot of the time, and it was very face to face, and it's forced that behavioural change. Now you obviously always get a bit of pushback around that, and you've got to get the adoption right and the culture right around it. But yeah, for sure, it's forced us to be more digital, hasn't it, the past few years? I won't say the dreaded word, but
good stuff. Right. Okay. So I think I'll jump in here. Thanks very much, Madeline, for that. That's some really interesting results on that one. We'll have a look, and I'm sure we'll be talking about one in the future. Hi guys, for people that haven't, I don't usually jump on to the Higher Education Hub. I think I've been a couple of times as a bit of a guest demo person. I'm Ollie Sinclair, Principal Consultant for Crimson. And what I really want to talk to you guys through today is one of our service lines called Paragon Services. And this is really all around how Crimson can help the transition of digital transformation and getting self-sufficiency, specifically with the Power Platform and Dynamics 365. There are a couple of elements of what I'm going to take you through today, which is very, very much technology agnostic and really would work for any sort of digital transformation conversation. But what I want to take you through today is a couple of slides just around the general concepts of what we do and where we've come to this service line, and then obviously we've got a bit of Q&A at the end, just to have a bit of a conversation around it and see what your thoughts are and how this has landed. So today is a bit demo light. Apologies. It very much is some slide decks and some conversations around the Paragon services. But what I'll start with is, why are we doing this? Why did we get to this area? And then take you into a little bit more detail around the specific services that we offer, and a bit of a spin on. I'm using examples of what we have done for our customers, but I've combined all of those examples together as a utopian Crimson University tackles Paragon services. So there's a kind of like a Crimson University's white paper behind the scenes that I'm kind of running through to give it sort of a little bit more of a real life example, rather than sort of naming and shaming certain organizations or universities that we've been working with. So yeah, so why has this come around? So as I'm sure you guys are aware, Crimson are, have been implementing Dynamics 365 on the Power Platform into higher education and other verticals for a number of years, and we've become really, really good at the implementation side, the building side, and getting these things set up in the right way. But what we've seen is that there are some other elements that don't specifically relate to implementation, but potentially stretch the edges of those implementations, or the actual ability for universities to adopt these digital transformation products or these low code application products and use those an ongoing, ongoing ever changing environment. And very much with low code, no code, you implement those so that they can change and grow with your business and change with when your business processes changes based on demand that comes from everywhere. And we've seen a few areas where there's this real big shift within technology at the moment to kind of move away from the bog standard way in which things are implemented in a number of projects. We always see, oh, it's an implementation project, it's a marketing project, or it's a student admissions project, and that's absolutely fantastic. But what we always see is that the downsides of projects are there's a start date, there's a lot of work and a lot of expertise go in, but then there is an end date, and there is some sort of handover, cutover to what we classify, I guess, as BAU. Now, if we flip that on its head and think about the projects in more of a product-centric way, you have then, say, it's more around like an aeroplane, for example. If you were building an aeroplane, there's a big build at the beginning, but then there's a lot of support and maintenance. There's training the staff. There's replacement of parts. There's the maintenance schedule of the aircraft. All of that is a hell of a lot of work. Now, if you're set up from a product standpoint, then that self-sufficiency element, once you've done that core implementation, you're going to find it a lot easier to then adapt to change, keep the maintenance going, but improve the aircraft, make changes to it, and you'll have the structure there that allows you to change and grow, and the aircraft will change and grow with the business need. So we also see a little bit around user adoption. One of the really cool things about technology is we find the technology part is kind of the easy part. The harder part is potentially the culture change, the business change, how users are adopting it, and where that's going to go. And Microsoft gives us a load of tools around the Power Platform adoption framework, and a couple of things that we've sort of utilized, and we also sort of reference. And then there's some actual sort of technical things that we see our customers struggle with in terms of whether it's environment management, solution management, or deployment. So your core ALM elements, once that implementation is finished, and when they are trying to run with it themselves, there are struggles in terms of the technology and the maturity of how they're set up from an operational standpoint in that sense. And kind of on that, there's also that boundary. So it's a boundary between, okay, if we've got a new phase or a new product, say you've done sales and marketing, and now we have a new product, which is student admissions or student services or alumni. It's actually, what are the boundaries between certain products, BAU, and support, and how do those three sort of priorities actually sort of can work together to form one succinct roadmap of innovation and delivery. So very, very interesting sort of concepts that we've seen highlighted, and we've seen those challenges with our customers. And also on the technology side, we've also seen some Gartner reporting that came out towards the end of last year around the percentage of new enterprise applications being built using low-code, no-code tools. So obviously, Power Platform being quite central to that area. And if you see, on the magic quadrant of Gartner, you've got Mendex and OutSystems, but Microsoft smack bang in there as leaders in that area. So, and obviously, you know, us as gold partners of Microsoft Technology, specifically around Dynamics and Power Platform, we've seen this demand. Now, you know, if you ask anybody, from a 70% increase from 2020 to 2025, there's obviously going to be a very, very big skill shortage that is already there. It is only going to get worse. So with the invention of these low-code, no-code platforms, we're trying to see that shift in terms of business development culture and getting much, much closer to the business being able to drive some of these elements. I'm sure you guys have all heard around the buzzwords from Microsoft around citizen developers. How do we get the business to bridge that gap and IT become more of a center of excellence, more of an advisory role that sits there? Yes, does the codey bits, but actually there's a lot that we can sort of outsource from a citizen development standpoint for small productivity and small change. So there is things that we bring to the table from, you know, the industry standards, from Gartner's advice, and obviously from Microsoft best practice, to actually to have these conversations with our customers. So what's the philosophy behind the Paragon services? So those are the reasons why we see that, you know, companies are selectively accelerating transformation investments, and they're really focusing on near-term time to value opportunities, sort of the must-haves that strengthen business resilience and protect the company's future. So they've got to provide a financially efficient and risk-secured mix of technologies and that enable that strategic objective and business through sort of omni speed or market speed. They've got to be delivering this at the right pace with the business. So, you know, we know that, you know, modernizing legacy applications with enterprise capabilities is absolutely key to sort of to sort of tackle all of those rogue IT or quasi apps, sort of taking them out of the shadows and actually having them forefront, so you can have that conversation with IT and the business. But you know, you've got the guide rails, you've got the guidance and the governance by IT, but you've got business. As I said, you know, that business development culture leading the charge, really. And so we do find that organizations are trying to empower their system developers, connecting siloed data. We all see it around the sort of the spreadsheets that seem to proliferate around the business, different ways in which they're engaging customers, and how we can drive all of that change to have a good return on investment. So what we say is that Paragon is for organizations seeking to rapidly modernize their IT and operations to encourage that digital transformation while remaining cost competitive, agile, and secure. So what the aims? You know, the aims are, yes, you know, Crimson are fantastic at implementing, but what we want to see is faster cycle times. How do we get to value quickly? So things like quality assurance, governance, risk compliance, testing, all of those sort of approval steps are typically for a project are loaded right at the back end in that development. And what we're trying to do is move that up front and shorten sort of that time to market, and using, you know, our best practices in terms of sort of the agile development techniques, scrum teams, you know, 2 sprint cycles, etc., and iterations of scope to actually, you know, have that faster cycle time and get that value quickly. So we install those values so that then the university can sort of take that on as a mantra. There's also, you know, increased application content to business. I think this is really fundamental, that you know, Paragon works to enable that continuous delivery of new applications, new upgrades, sort of fail small, fail fast approaches to building the processes that university are starting to, you know, to come on board and start to change. And what we also want to be doing is giving that technology focused center of excellence. So give you guys the tools to educate, to train, to grow this community of citizen developers or power users or IT leaders to be able to deliver that fast-paced value. And it's all around that cross-functional collaboration. So sort of the low code, it can't just be considered separate to change. So, and how does that change from an organization standpoint? How does it change from an adoption standpoint? And what resources potentially would we need to fill the gap, or to be able to look at hiring for specific areas, whether that's business, change, or IT. And obviously continuously improve on that return on investment. So low code catalyzes an important paradigm shift towards performance metrics and OKRs that are defined by the business, and really based on that product thinking theory that I was talking about slightly earlier, rather than the standard cost center approach to IT development, really. So there's lots of aims in which we're trying to achieve within the Paragon framework. We kind of summarize it in three areas. You're trying to drive that enterprise value, get that return on investment. So driving enterprise value, so you've got your people, the services you offer, the number and caliber of students that you attract, the quality of your operations, and the management of your compliance, the agility and momentum that you will have to shift to new ways of working and new strategies with this technology, and obviously that that cost factor, which is really important in the IT world. Embedding continuous improvement, again, it was touched upon in those aims, and it's really trying to understand the implementation. It's a journey, just like the plane. Yes, there's that initial build, but there's a hell of a lot of maintenance, change. You change out the seats, the IT equipment that's on a plane, the servicing, everything about that. The system needs to kind of be agile, but the process needs governance. So there is governance that sits on top of that, but it's very much around seeing this as a product rather than just a project that starts and ends, then you're live, and then, oh, hey, that's great, we'll just crack on and do something else. No, that it is a continuous journey. And then thinking customer first is really important to us, and it's seeking ways to consistently and proactively deliver a positive customer experience by designing and delivering with the customer in mind. Now, there's a couple of universities that we've been to, and one of them, I loved the vision that they came up with whilst we were using some of the Paragon elements, and it was, we're here for our students. We pride ourselves on providing transformative, data-driven, proactive student services to pursue an effortless engagement between our students and the university. And that was one of the vision statements for one of their product sets around student services, funnily enough. And it's one of those things that we try and, right at the top level, understand that vision, understand where they're trying to get to, and find ways at getting there quicker and for the best way. So there's a boatload of considerations when shaping a digital platform. As I say, not just purely around the technology and the building. There's lots and lots of things around familiarizations, the innovation, the performance metrics, how it fits with Microsoft best practice. There's the alignment to organization change. There's lots of things that we would want to consider when shaping a digital platform. And we've kind of taken all that information in and said, okay, well, let's find a framework in which we can share with our customers and sort of install some of those best practices. So that's why we've come across Crimson Paragon Services. It's based off of 6 pillars. The top 3 for anybody that lives and breathes target operating models. This should be quite familiar. So you've got your processes, your people, and your technology. But what we've also added into target operating model elements, specifically around the no-code, low-code platform, is around an importance of that delivery model, of performance and metrics, as well as governance as well. So we've got those 6 pillars where we believe that Paragon will drive awareness of Microsoft best practice for solution and platform management, understanding the various roles and responsibilities required to support IT and business change, and the process required to successfully deliver managed solutions on Dynamics 365 on the Power Platform. So that's really the pillars of our framework. The components, we have a lot in there around change management. We've got a lot in there around resource management, product management, solution management, and all of this is combined into what we see as our I guess our service lines that we sort of invite customers to actually come on the journey with us. Now, in the various levels in terms of the audience that we like to go through with Paragon services, we have at the top level a Paragon framework assessment, and that's usually at that C-suite level where we are talking about the strategy. We're giving them an understanding of what a sort of a utopian target operating model is, and we have conversations to assess maturity on certain strategies that we like to see. We also have some sort of consultancy level elements where potentially working with the IT team or the business change team around technologies and processes. So those individual processes that we've highlighted that we know that if a customer is looking to get to that self-sufficiency element, what are the things that they will need to take ownership of, and how can Crimson help understand what's needed for those processes with a set of recommendations, and also the people and adoption side, just as important, if not more important, than the actual technology. You have your people and adoption. What's really, really unique about Crimson is that we have two sides of our business. We have the implementation, the delivery, the technology, the processes side of our business, but we also have a very, very big people side, a recruitment side, who are specialists at identifying skills gap analysis, identifying the market value for people with roles, considering skill sets. And we do have change practitioners within the business as well. So with all of those elements combined, we can provide that breadth of offering that's on the banner of Paragon services that we can sort of assist in those areas. Once we've done those assessments, and we can give you some recommendations about how Crimson can help, or how you can go on to your self-sufficiency journey. There are also some other sort of implementations, like technical sides to Paragon services. For those of you that have kind of had a little bit more of a research into the Power Platform, you may be aware of a couple of tools from what's known as the customer advisory team within Microsoft that share things like the Center of Excellence Starter Kit, which is a set of toolkits that you can actually install within your environment that helps you manage your citizen developers, your Fusion teams, your development going forward. And we actually provide services to implement that, but also implement it in a tailored way that highlights some of the things that you guys would be needing. There's not just the customer, the Center of Excellence Starter Kit. There is also a designer kit. There's an automation kit. There is security applications as well, which we sort of would come in and work out which one's appropriate for what you're looking to do, and we can install those for you and get you guys up to running actually on the technology, which is really, really good. We also offer some knowledge transfer as well. So not just theoretically how you guys are going to be set up and installing the right technology for managing a center of excellence. We actually have some knowledge transfer where we work with you to build these applications. So not only do you get some proof of concept or some MVPs, so minimum viable products, in some of these areas within the technology, you also get a solid knowledge transfer that enables you to sort of upskill your teams to have the skill sets to be able to then start delivering those for yourselves as well. So Paragon Services, really in a nutshell, is all of those services, not forgetting that fundamentally there are lots of different ways in which the Power Platform is used within a university. You have organization-wide initiatives on the right-hand side there, where it's your CRM system. It's the student services, for example, installing a CRM system. So high number of users, high number of complexity. It's organization-wide initiatives. Usually we see quite a heavy involvement with a partner like Crimson. But what we do have is a sliding scale of that all the way down to personal productivity. So, where we're looking at, those really useful citizen developer sort of self-service approach is on that personal or team productivity area, where there is obviously a much less risk in terms of the data exposure to, customer data, GDPR policies, etc. But what we find is that rather than individual teams or individual productivity just having a boatload of spreadsheets or keeping processes manual, we do invite the use of citizen developers to be able to actually build those simple business use cases or small productivity using the tools of the Power Platform. The great thing about this is that sliding scale, also you can slide the level of governance that you need to attribute to those areas, and it's something that may start as personal or small productivity. Simple use case may be then adopted by more departments or have different use cases. All of a sudden it can grow into a mission critical. Now, if you have the right center of excellence sat on top of that from an advisory perspective, you can make guardrails and actually start to promote these applications to those mission critical organization wide initiatives with the right guardrails. So it's not like you're having to replace all of your productivity just because you then want an organization-wide initiative. What you would be able to do, because it's the same tool set and because there are, is the same components, you would just be able to bring that along with you into the journey and into the more managed environments that you have. And that's absolutely the beauty of low code, no code. It should really work on that sliding scale. So I'll just push through on some other slides. Where Paragon services sit with our other offerings, we do have Maximize, which is our support area. So we provide support, a number of support offerings to our customers, and obviously the standard advisory / delivery services within the business is on that right hand side. But where we see Paragon services playing is certainly down in this area where we can help you get there from a self-sufficiency perspective. A little bit more on the Centre of Excellence Starter Kit, not to scare you, but the COE Starter Kit, and this is slightly out of date already. There's lots of applications, there's lots of process flows, there's little bits of SharePoint sort of littered in there. So being able to understand what all of this does and what it would be useful for your university or for you to be able to adopt to, that's where we really come in with our specialist skills, with our experience using the Centre of Excellence Starter Kit. So very quickly, I'm just going to take you through a bit of a journey. So as I said sort of earlier on, Crimson University, this prestigious institution committed to academic excellence and recognise the need to digitalise its processes and drive innovation to enhance its efficiency, maintain that competitive edge. To address challenges associated with managing and changing and developing in-house skills, the university partners with Crimson, funnily enough, and we adopted the Crimson Paragon framework. So we first started with that top level assessment where we actually did get the university C-suite to talk about their visions, to talk about their goals, understand their need in terms of where they're going with the Power Platform and Dynamics 365, what organization-wide initiative they had, what options they had for those self-sufficiency and that sliding scale, and really gave them an understanding of what a good target operating model would be, understanding those from those 6 pillars of Paragon services. Now, what does that framework assessment look like? It's 4 sessions long. We talk about the benefits of the framework. We then talk about the framework process itself, and then talk more around the technology and the people aspect, the really core elements of the Paragon framework. And what they got out of that was an assessment report. So the assessment report enabled the university to identify those areas that need improvement, those recommendations that really counted, and align its vision with Paragon's best practice, and really determine that best approach of what they would need to do next. And so we had some principles that we shared with them. It came out as what's known as the Paragon Framework Assessment Report, which has a number of chapters all broken down into the different areas of Paragon Framework. And then from that, we obviously recommended that they needed to have a look at some more of the consultative side. So we actually then went into the more of the business process side. So we're looking at the process and the technology with the individuals from the IT team, where we then had a look at the framework process itself and more around the technologies. Now, with Microsoft being a raft of information, a raft of best practices, they have what's known as the success by design. It's kind of like an implementation cookbook. And what that gives you is some really good key strategies that we like to talk through. Everything from your application strategy to your testing strategy to your data and capacity strategy. All of these strategies, there's some advice there and some best practice. Now, within these processes, we align those to those strategies so that we know that yes, the implementation is going to go well, but what we also have is all of those strategies ready for the university to take on from a self-sufficiency perspective. And again, we gave them a technical and a process report on the side of that, giving them an understanding of some evergreen management, and then highlighting on some of those processes that I highlighted earlier, and some of those ones that were more important to the way their university wanted to go with self-sufficiency. What we also did for them is through understanding the processes and an ideal target operating model, there was absolutely some gaps in terms of the resources that they needed to fulfill. So what we actually then did is a Paragon assessment, a people assessment around the personas and the roles that they currently have, and really then deep diving into those gaps that we've discovered at the assessment, at the framework assessment, and where this needed to go. And what we've actually came up with was sort of a transition plan in terms of upskilling members of staff to be able to be included in the new sort of IT capacity, as well as augmenting some of our Crimson expertise for a short term, but also really leaning on our change and adoption experts within the business to make sure the organization change fit where these people and these resources want to go. So really good bit of assessment going on there before we actually then decided to then do the Centre of Excellence installation. So we then spent some time with the IT team and in a specific environment installing the Power Platform ALM Accelerator. There's a Dataverse Environment Security Management application. All of these things allow the university to manage the environment and to manage their implementations by themselves, with advice coming in from not only an internal Centre of Excellence, but obviously advisory services from Crimson themselves. So that really is the journey we went on to with Crimson University. Obviously, that's a fictitious university, but it shows you the depth and flexibility of our Paragon framework, that any element of those that your university may be struggling with, we can come in and we can help out and drive that digital transformation forward. As I said a little bit earlier on, we do align heavily to Microsoft services and Microsoft best practice. The success by design we did talk about, and also these are just a few of our Paragon customers that we've had since the beginning of Paragon services back in 2021. So I'm gonna stop right there, and hopefully I haven't overrun too much in terms of my timing. So I thought I'd just leave some time for some Q&A, or if there's anything that you guys would want to talk about, I'll hand back to Madeline. Oh, you're on
Done
mute.
the classic thing of being on mute. That's great. Thanks, Ollie. Yeah, that sounds great. I don't think we've got any questions in the chat at the moment. But if anyone has anything, please just shout out. Hopefully that's kind of given a bit of an initial view of what could be done and what could be supported. As Ollie mentioned, that kind of ran through with Crimson University a whole range of different offerings as part of Paragon, but it might be that just one element of that is applicable, and then you can build on it or scope it throughout a whole program or project, and then build on it as you go through. So hopefully just got some minds thinking. We haven't got any questions in. Ollie, sorry, do you mind just presenting back the final slide? Just got a couple of
shall I
two
do
more
the
QR codes on there.
okay.
If not, I've got it. Essentially, there's just two other things that we just wanted to throw up at the end of the meeting. So at the end of the session. So we've got a little bit of a survey. If anyone wants to kind of fill that out and give any feedback around what you've heard today, if there's anything of interest or if you want any follow-ups, we'll also be sharing out the recording of this. Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Ollie. Next one. There we are. We'll send out the recording, so hopefully you'll have my contact details anyway, and you can reach out if there's anything that has caught your attention today. We also have our LinkedIn page, so we have a higher education LinkedIn page, which is the QR code for here. We share quite a lot of information about what we're doing in the sector, but also any blogs that we find of interest or anything that might be useful to kind of share and learn. It's quite a good community on there, so give that a follow if that's of interest. I think our next higher education hub is probably in a couple of months' time, so keep an eye out for that. We'll be posting it on the LinkedIn, or we'll be sending stuff out to you guys in a couple of weeks around what's next. But if there's no other questions, I think we'll probably give some time back. But we'll talk to you all soon, I'm sure.
Great, thanks very much.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thanks, Madeline.
See you all
Bye.
soon.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Thanks.